Guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, I'm sorry I'm not in the normal studio. Today is absolutely insane. I'm having a very busy week. It's just gone 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm filming the Q&A before I start for the day, else you aren't going to get a Q&A this week, so I'm sorry I'm not in the normal studio. But if you're new to the channel, the idea is that I'm taking all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them. Now, a few things that you need to know. First of all, you're getting my raw unfiltered opinions. Now, what I mean by that is I'm not doing research into these questions. When I read them, that's the first time I'm seeing them. You're getting a kind of an off-the-cuff answer. If I think that a question needs a longer answer, I will put that together in a future video. For example, I just had a video that went up, actually it's going up next week. I've just done a video on magic apps because somebody asked a question about magic apps and I wanted to do a longer video on it. So that can happen sometimes. If it does, I will let you know. The other thing is you want to try and get your questions in as early as possible. I'm actually filming this quite late in the week. This is Thursday, but normally I film on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Try to get your questions in as quickly as possible. That's the best way to make sure that you're going to get your question answered. And if I miss a question, I'm very sorry. Just ask it again and I'll get back to it next week. Now, with that all being said, one last thing, which is thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and I really mean this. Thank you for being on the channel. Sometimes it's kind of almost impossible to do this channel. Like I say, I get up early at times like this to do this. I do have another job. I do have other stuff that I do. YouTube is like a passion project for me, you know. And I never miss a video. I try not to miss a video ever. And the reason I do that is because of you guys. So seriously, from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. So with that all being said, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into this week's Q&A. Okay, so the first question is, and I'm going to be looking down here to read the questions. I'm very sorry. The first question is from Adonis Beridon. And Boris Dennis Beridon wants to know, hey Craig, hey, how you doing? Where is a good place to get stage illusions, either to buy or build? That's a great question. So if you're going to build stage illusions, you want to get plans, and there's lots of plans that are available online. JC Sum has some amazing plans for various different illusions. There's actually an illusion I use, which is a production of a birthday cake that I built myself from a JC Sum plan. He has actually numerous books that you can use to build illusions, but there's lots of other plans that you can get from library.com is a good resource, to be perfectly honest. You can get a lot of older plans for illusions, and then there's a lot of illusion books that you can buy as well, and plans will come out. Kevin I can't remember the guy's name, but Populate is another one that I built many years ago as well. So yeah, in terms of plans, you can get them from various different places. In fact, one of the very first illusions that I put in my show was an Andrew Main style sword box, and that was from plans that he put together and he sold many years ago. Now, in terms of buying illusions, that's a really good question because they're very expensive. That's the thing. How I got into illusions, because right, here's the thing. And this is the thing that people don't tell you about doing an illusion act. It's a lot of hassle, right? It's a hell of a lot of hassle. It's amazing in terms of doing the show, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on around it that makes it really annoying. So first of all, you have to have all of these illusions, right? You typically won't get instructions for them, so you have to figure out how they work themselves. You have to have a warehouse to keep all of these illusions in. You have to have somebody who you're working with that's trained to do the illusions. Unless it's a partner or somebody like that, you're probably not going to get enough work to give them a full-time job doing that. So you have to have multiple assistants trained up so that when you get a gig, you've got someone who is actually free to do it. You're probably going to have some sort of van or some sort of transport to transport the illusions around. When you actually do the gig, you have to get in way before anyone else. The build time, depending on the illusion, can be quite a long time. Not all the time. So, for example, when I go with a split press, for example, I just literally push in the flight case, it rolls out the flight case, and I'm good to go. There are certain illusions like that, like the crystal casket, and so on and so forth. But then there's other illusions that you have to build, and that can be a bloody nightmare. Some of them are fairly simple and easy builds, like my fire cage takes about 10 minutes to build. Me and Ryan reviewed Walking Through the other week. That's like a 5-minute build. But then you can have longer builds. Spontus takes about 15 minutes to build. And something like, we do Mirror Passage, the Mirror Passage illusion by Louis de Matos. That's a 35 to 40 minute build when you get to the venue. So you have to build all of this stuff. And then typically you can't strike it down until everyone leaves. And then you've got to strike everything down. And then you've got to get back home, right? So there's a lot of crap that comes with being an illusionist. But it's also a lot of fun. You can command quite high fees, and it's the bet. You feel like a rock star when you're actually doing the show. So there's pros and there's cons, right? Something you need to be aware of. And it can be the point I'm trying to make here is it can be very expensive to actually put that act together, first of all. It's not cheap, especially if you're trying to do something original, something different, or something unique with the props, right? So when you're first buying illusions, and the way I did it is I bought a bunch of second-hand illusions. I went on magicweek.co.uk. I went on various different... actually, there wasn't Facebook pages when I first got into it. It was mainly Magic Week, to be honest. But I kind of scoured everywhere to try and find second-hand illusions because that was the cheapest way for me to get into it. And I remember buying a chair suspension, buying a Rings of Death, buying a Heads Off, stuff like that. We bought lots of really cheap illusions. But I think the first big illusion that we got was a sub-trunk. And we got all of these various different illusions, right? And then when we started buying illusions, you have to ultimately, once you can't find the stuff that you want secondhand, because a lot of the secondhand stuff, unless you're lucky, is quite generic, right? And as an illusion act, one thing that you want to do to stand out is have illusions that maybe a lot of other acts aren't doing. So we then started going to illusion builders. Guy Barrett is somebody who I really go back to again and again and again. He's one of my favourite illusion builders in the world. But obviously, you've got Thomas Moore, who I interviewed on this channel a little while ago. You've got Illusion Craft. You've got Andy Topham, who's a great... And these are all in the UK. And then abroad, you've got Mike Michaels. You've got a whole bunch of people as well. We've got illusions that we've brought in from abroad as well. That can obviously be a lot more expensive. Myself and Ryland on the review show have talked about Smoky Mountain. But illusions aren't cheap. Like, to get a utility base... I would always start off with a utility base, which is built by Guy Barrett, which is a base, right? And of course, the nice thing about the utility base is you can get various different tops for it. You can get like 7 or 8 different tops. So when we first started, it was my illusion act was me, Russell, and Anna. And we got a utility base and we got 3 different tops. And then what we'd do is in the wings of the shows that we were doing, we'd have the tops stacked up. And what would happen is we'd come out and we'd do the first illusion, and then I'd do a front of cloth piece while Russ and Anna would be changing the illusion over, and then later on we'd wheel the same prop off with a different prop with a different top, and we'd do a second illusion, and then that would be wheeled into the wings, and I would do another front of cloth piece. When I talk about front of cloth, it's something that happens behind the curtains. The term front of cloth means that the curtains close, you're doing something small-ish in front of the curtains, so when the curtains open, the stage has been changed around. But it doesn't necessarily have to be in front of the cloth. The curtains don't have to change. It can mean something small while something else is happening in the wings. So we would have this utility base, and we'd have 3 different tops, and it meant that we could just have one illusion with 3 different tops. The van could be smaller, and we could do a changeover 3 times, and it meant that it felt we had more illusions in the show than we actually did. So a utility base is a great place to start, and it's Guy Barrett you want to speak to, and he's one of the only illusion builders in the world that has illusions like that in stock. So he has utility bases in stock in his warehouse. So you can literally ring him up and say, can I have a utility base? And he'll send it over. But yeah, I mean, start off maybe looking at second-hand stuff, but have a look at the interview I did with Thomas Moore, because a lot of the time with illusion building, when you actually get to a point that you're buying illusions, it's very much a collaborative effort when you go to an illusion builder. You kind of go in and you go, look, this is what I'm kind of looking to do, and the illusion builder and you will work together to create something really unique and bespoke. It doesn't always have to be the way. So, for example, Ryan and Thea have just added the head and body twister into their act. That that trick is as old as the hills, right? But there's a moment in the show where Thea's going to do that on Ryan, and then it all makes sense. That is actually a second-hand illusion. There you go. So that's even now, second-hand illusion, boom, not a problem. So start second-hand and then build up to it. That's the advice I would give you. Okay, so the next question is the magic of Seth, who says, I'm curious what you found are the most practical ways, if any, to increase production value of a stage show, whether it be adding music, fancy backdrop, or whatever. Again, great question. So when I started doing stage shows properly, and well, actually, not straight away, because when I first started doing stage shows, I was primarily doing the holiday park circuit. And when you do the holiday park circuit, you don't really need to add production value because you're on the holiday park stage. The production value is still there. However, having said that, I did make sure I had lots of graphics because they have screens behind you, and I had lots of graphics illustrating various different points in the show. A perfect example is if you've seen Ryan do the Harry Potter act, we had custom-made graphics designed to go on the screen behind him that looked like a Hogwarts castle, right? And when he first came out, it was the Ryan and the Kid Magician logo, and as he did the quick change to turn into Harry Potter, it then changed into the Hogwarts castle, right? So using static images on a screen is a really great way to add production value, especially if you've got side screens as well, because it can bleed out onto there. Looks great. But yeah, after I'd finished the holiday park circuit, I then added a backdrop. I got a really nice, really expensive backdrop. I spent a lot of money on it. I got it from Backdrops to Go. It was one of those beautiful backdrops that opens up like that, and it looks like a theatre. It looks absolutely amazing. And it's one that can be set up in literally 2 minutes. Now, the reason that was important is it gave my show an added perceived value, because most people, I was doing a lot of corporate events. I was doing a lot of kids' parties, higher end kids' parties. I was doing a lot of weddings and so on and so forth. And having this backdrop, first of all, really set the stage and made it look really nice. And it wasn't very much to set up. It's like a 2-minute setup. It's just up, across, done. But it looks absolutely amazing. And more importantly, it gave me a wings area. So we talked about how in the early days I used to have a utility base and multiple tops. When I wasn't working in a theatre, I had those tops behind the backdrop. So the prop would be pushed behind the backdrop, the prop would be changed over, and when it came out, people felt like it was a completely different illusion. That wouldn't have been possible without a backdrop. So yes, backdrops are great. Ryland has one of those backdrops, and he also has 2 large pull-up banners on either side of it, so it gives him even more space with bigger wings, which looks really nice as well. I mean, just talking about pull-up banners, having a really nice pull-up banner is a great way to give the show an added perceived value, 100%. Then there's music. You talked about music. Music is so important. Having the right music and using a system that allows the music to flow. So rather than just there and hitting play and stop on a device, we even to this day do play and stop a lot of the time, because it's an illusion act. There's 2 or 3 people involved in the show. There's one person in the wings that's always controlling the music. It's not like it's controlled on stage, so it feels like it's all happening automatically, but that's not necessarily the case. But if you're on your own, or it's a smaller show, using something like solo is absolutely brilliant, because having music for every part of the act and having that music seamlessly flow from one routine into the other really gives an added perceived value. Now, I could talk about music all day. Music will take a good trick and make it a great trick. It'll take a great trick and make it an unbelievable trick. So if you've seen, again, I'll use Ryland and Thea as an example. They do the Restarting Bottle by Morgan and West. And, they've always done it well, but it was when we put a track over the top of it, and we actually used Naughty from Matilda, the instrumental version of Naughty. When we put Naughty over the top, it just elevated that trick to an entire other level, because then all of a sudden the music playing in the background just gave the whole routine something different, right? And really a really great show will have music playing all the way throughout, and having something like solo will mean that you can operate that without even having an assistant off stage. Now, if you are doing something like the holiday park circuit, you're going to have a tech team. They're going to do the music for you, but it's really important that you give them a device that it's on, and you give them very clear sound cues, and you get there in time for them to tech the show. Now, talking about doing holiday parks and theatres and so on and so forth, lighting will also really improve your show. Having the correct lighting, and even if you don't have a theatre you're performing in, even if you don't have a holiday park you're performing in, you can buy lights that you can put at the back, and you can have those lights linked in again to something like solo. So the lighting state can change depending on the routine you're doing. So if you're doing an illusion, for example, that can be flashing lots of different, colours and flashing in time to the music, whilst if you're doing more of a gypsy thread or something, or some sort of beautiful routine, you can have a completely different lighting state. Understanding lighting is so important. So something like Sands of the Desert, for example, you want a complete black with just a white sort of spotlight right there on where the Sands of the Desert prop is. While something like Flying Linking Rings, for example, you're going to be wanting some blue lighting because that's the best to hide thread, and you want the whole thing dipped down in blue. Understanding lighting is important. Having haze machines and fog machines and snow machines and, pyro eventually, that's something that's always really important to add perceived value as well. But this is something you build up over time. The advice I would give you is to learn about all of this stuff. Learn about how to tech a show. Learn about how to make the sound work at a show. Learn about lighting. Learn about stagecraft. Learn about all this sort of stuff, because it's going to really elevate your show to the next level. Okay, so Derek D. Magique says, Sup to you too. I'm on a mission to make Plastidip my bitch. I'm halfway there, but I know you know stuff that I know I need to know. That's the most confusing sentence I've ever read in my life, but I get it. Excuse me. That's funny. Can you please let me know which is known? Can you please let that which is known fly? I'm grateful. Have a great time this holiday. Dear me. Okay, so I'm doing a video on this very, very soon, but just to give you a very short kind of thing that a lot of people aren't aware of. I've mentioned before on the channel, I'll mention it again. A lot of magicians don't know the difference between roughing spray and between Plastidip and roughing spray. So let me explain the difference. Roughing spray is what's used in something like an invisible deck or a brainwave deck or a mental photography deck. You spray two surfaces, a surface of one card, a surface of another card, and when it dries, they're going to stick together, right? So an invisible deck has been sprayed on the back of every single card. They've been put back to back, which gives us the invisible deck, right? If only half of those cards were sprayed with roughing spray, it wouldn't work. Now compare and contrast that to Plastidip. Plastidip is a different thing. Plastidip, unlike roughing spray, works like this. Plastidip, you spray one surface, and once you spray that one surface, that card will stick to any other card in the pack. Any other card in the pack. And that can be very useful in certain situations. There are situations where roughing spray is better, and there are certain situations where Plastidip is better. And it's understanding what's the best tool for the job. Now, I haven't talked about grip sticks. I haven't talked about roughing sticks. I haven't talked about any of that because I don't particularly like that stuff that much. I'm not too into the sticks. I do very much like the glue that me and Matt Wright put out earlier this year. The glue is great, but that's really, for me, kind of designed for a different type of thing. The glue isn't really so much, it doesn't replace Plastidip, it doesn't replace roughing fluid. It's perfect. If I was doing Stuck Up Monty, for example, which I taught on that project, I would be using the glue. And I do use the glue. That is the best use for that. And you go and look at that project for the glue. But in terms of spray itself, Plastidip is something that you use on one card, and it'll stick to any other surface. My roughing spray, you have to spray every single surface that you want to stick together. Two cards have to stick together. Both cards need to be sprayed. So now you can decide what's the best spray to use in the given situation. Now, in the video that I'm going to make, I'm going to go through different scenarios. I'm going to teach certain tricks using Plastidip so you can see the difference. That kind of makes sense, because I think it's really important that you understand the difference between all of these. So that's that. There's nothing else that I can really tell you about any of that stuff. That's everything that you need to know. Look out for the video coming soon. It's halfway shot. Me and Michael are very close to having that finished off. And I'm going to be going through how to apply it, and how to use it, and various different routines that use the various different sprays. This question is Alejandro Ramiro, who says, Craig, thanks for delivering every single Q&A and answering all of our questions. You're more than welcome. I'm glad Thea is back on the Magic Live videos. Tom doesn't seem particularly interested in participating. To be honest, when I'm filming videos, I just grab who I've got available. Sometimes it's going to be Thea, sometimes it's going to be Ryland, sometimes it's going to be Tom. I've just filmed some stuff with Nemid recently. I'll grab whoever I can. Unfortunately, like I said on the channel last week, Matt a lot of the time isn't available because he's really busy in the office. We are so busy right now. Hence the reason I'm doing this morning. I'm going to be on the sales desk all day with Matt. And if I don't film this before the office opens, you ain't going to get a Q&A. So it's at the moment, it's almost impossible for me to do this with Matt. But I just grab whoever I can, really, to be honest. Talking about great companions, I'm wondering what happened to Jack. He looked like a really chill dude, and his reactions were so genuine that allowed us to gauge the real impact of the tricks. Besides, it was fun to see his head spinning every time. Jack was an employee of mine. He worked in the marketing department of my company, and unfortunately, he moved on. He got an opportunity to work with I believe his father-in-law or his father or a very close family member, and he left to explore other opportunities, which is great, and I'm sure he's having a great time in his new place of work. But that's the problem, right? The problem with this channel, and like I said at the very beginning of the video, is that this is kind of a passion project for me. People think that Magic TV is my main thing. It's really not. My main thing is running a business that books in 15 to 18,000 events a year. That's what my main thing is. And I've allowed myself in the past to get distracted from that. And Jack is a perfect example. Like, Jack worked in the marketing department of my company, and yet half the time I'd be bringing him into my office to say, hey, Jack, can I show you a trick? And it's kind of insane when you think about it. I'm paying somebody to do a job, and half of the time they're not even getting a chance to do their job. I'm literally paying them to watch magic tricks. And I don't really have, we're so busy right now in the office, I don't have time to pull somebody like a Jack. Not that I can pull Jack off anymore because he's no longer in the office, but I can't take somebody from the office and bring them into my, kind of the meeting room where I film a lot of the stuff. I can't do that because they're at capacity. You look at somebody like Michael who films a lot of the stuff. Every time Michael's filming a video, he's in the middle of like reintegrating all the automation into the company, which is a huge job. Him and I are doing it together, and he's taking the brunt of it. Michael's a very clever man and understands way more than I do about automation, even though I've been doing it for like 15 years. Michael's a genius, and every single time I bring him in to film something, I'm literally paying him to hold a camera when he should be actually doing his job. It's the same with Matt. Anytime I bring Matt into the area where we record, it's like every time we do a mat test, it takes like about an hour minimum. Well, that's an hour that I've actually paid him to be in the office, where he should, Matt will book in like 4 or 5 gigs an hour, which means that if I do 3 hours a week, which was easy, like in the old days, if not more, I'd have him in there all the time. That's like maybe 15 gigs a week that we're missing out on because I've shown Matt a card trick. And it took my wife to actually point this out to me. So my wife, Sarah, is also the MD of the company. And she was like, you do realize that, like, you don't really get paid for YouTube, and you're taking all of the staff and you're bringing them in here, and we're paying them to literally watch you do magic tricks, which means that they're not actually able to do their job. I'm like, yeah, I never thought of it like that. So that's why you're not seeing Matt as much. Jack, you're not seeing because he no longer works for me. But that's why you're seeing people like Tom. That's why you're seeing people like Nemid. That's why you're seeing people like Ryland. That's why you're seeing people like Thea. Because when people come in the office, I'm like, hey, come and see a trick. I've got a video to film. Come quickly jump in in here with me. And in an ideal world, I would go out and I'd do the same thing that I do on my projects, which I'd go out and I'd try and get as much live footage as I can. The problem is, I just don't have time to do that. It's hard enough for me to do that with an actual project, let alone with the amount of content that I put on YouTube. So, that's the long answer to that question. Unfortunately, you won't see Jack again unless he comes back to work and I feel he's very happy where he is. But, we keep going. Okay, so the next question is Lucia Purak, who says, "Hi Craig, great video. Could you please tell me how to go about submitting a trick to Penguin and protecting my idea from being stolen just in case? I've never done that before and I would appreciate the advice." So in terms of submitting the trick to Penguin, you just submit it. There's a submission process on their website. Just go through the process of going through that process, right? The best thing to do is to send them a video, keep it very succinct. You don't want a super long video that takes hours for them to watch. Try to keep it to 5 minutes. Give them a very quick intro, perform the trick to camera, and give them a very quick overview of what the trick is. That's all they really need to see, right? And that's it, really. That's what you need to do. Okay, so very, very simple, quick 5-minute video that's going to basically go through everything that they need, right? In terms of protecting and I've done videos on this channel, by the way, about how to pitch a product, so you can go back and look at those. In terms of protecting your idea, Penguin is, despite what other people will have you think in recent videos that have been produced, Penguin, who I've been working with for years, are as straight and narrow as you can get, and they would never mess you around. If you want to be sure, then very simply make a video, time-stamped and dated, hold up a newspaper if you want to, and upload it onto YouTube as an unlisted video, and just say, hey, my name's Craig Petty, the date is this date, and I'm just creating this video as proof of concept for this magic trick. I am about to submit it to Penguin Magic on this date. The video that's going to be submitted to Penguin Magic is a different video, but let me quickly show you what the trick is and how it works. You then make that an unlisted private video on YouTube. Then, if anybody screwed you over and went, I'm guessing you're worried about them taking your idea and producing it themselves. If that happened, you could turn around and you could say, well, hang on, here's a video of me a year ago saying I was going to pitch this product to Penguin Magic, and here's the dated newspaper that shows, the proof of concept. That's the way to protect yourself, because then you've got proof. You've got a smoking gun. I don't think you need to worry about that, but if it gives you peace of mind, then there's no problem. I've done that with a few products with companies that I haven't used before, and as you haven't used Penguin, it makes sense for you to be a little bit trepidatious, but just make the video and have it sit on YouTube, and that should cover you completely. In terms of submitting it, like I say, just go through the submission process. Just don't be too long-winded, because they have to watch so many submissions. If you make it a 20-minute pitch video, they're probably not going to get the point. They'll just skip through it. So make it very, very short, show them the trick, very quickly give them an overview of how it works, and then that's all you need to do. Okay, so Magic Macaulay, hey buddy, hope you're well over in North Wales. Like I said last week, Magic Macaulay and his dad are awesome. Please go check them out. So what does Magic Macaulay say? Hey Craig, I've been thinking really hard about creating an act after Ryland and Thea's show. I'm looking for an act that will be 30 minutes long, and I want to tell the audience I'm homeschooled and make all the tricks flow together or tie together with homeschooling and have a kicker ending. If you've got any ideas of tricks that would be the right fit for my character, please, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you very much, Magic Macaulay. P.S. You give some great advice. That's a great hook. I mean, that's the start of a great act, homeschooling. You want to check out Rick Merrill. Rick Merrill is a FISM winner for several years ago, and he became very famous for doing stuff with Sharpies and coins, and he took Rune Klan's impromptu hitman routine and really kind of took it to the next level. But Rick Merrill won FISM with this act that you can find online, and the act was basically all about, well, the kind of the thing about the act is, and the jokes that he put in, is that he was homeschooled. And so that might be a good starting point. I can't remember the act well enough to know if the magic tied into the premise, but the homeschooling premise was definitely there. When you're working with any premise, what you want to do is you want to think about how you can communicate that premise to the audience, if that kind of makes sense. You have to think about how you can communicate the premise to the audience. Now, I've never been homeschooled, and I've never homeschooled anybody. Honestly, I think I would die if I had to homeschool Ryan and Thea. So I don't really know what the beats would be, but what you need to do is you need to think of stuff that people would find amusing or interesting to do with being homeschooled. Right? And then what you want to do is you want to create routines based around those moments. And I would have lots of visual moments that tie together. I'm going to give you probably what is a terrible example. And the reason I'm going to give you a terrible example is because this is probably wrong, but I'll give you an example. So imagine turning round to the audience and saying, hey, my name is Magic Macaulay. Thank you for coming for my show. Really appreciate it. And I just want to point out that I've been doing magic for a long time. I've won numerous awards doing magic, but what's interesting about me is I'm homeschooled. Now, the thing about being homeschooled is that you are schooled at home. Now, a lot of kids have one of these. It's called a bus pass. It's what you have to use to get to school. You show this to the driver, and they will give you, they'll let you onto the bus, right? But when you're homeschooled, you don't need a bus pass. You need a remote control. Why do you need a remote control? When you need a remote control, control the TV. The best thing about being homeschooled is you're at home, which means you have TV in your classroom. How cool is that? Now, that's an example of the sort of thing that you could do, right? When people think homeschool, there's certain things that come to mind. And when I think homeschooled, I'm thinking, well, you're studying at home, right? So you've got access to the stuff at home. So having a bus pass change into a remote control is a great way to illustrate that. You could then use that remote control as a focal point. Go look up The Magic Atlas by Joshua Jay. The Magic Atlas was Joshua Jay's first book. He brought it out when he was like 15 years old. And he's got a ambitious card in there with a remote control, which is still one of the best ambitious cards of all time. It's where the spectator is given a remote control. I think he's doing an ambitious card, and they press up, and when they do, the card comes up to the top of the deck, and when he presses mute, pretends that he's not talking and that sort of stuff, and eventually the remote control stops working, and when they take the battery compartment off at the back, the card's folded up in the battery compartment. Beautiful, can't say it enough. Beautiful routine. Having that moment where the bus pass turns into the remote would give you the premise to then go into something like that. You could say, of course, when you've just turned the bus pass into the remote, you say, of course, even though I'm homeschooled, I wasn't allowed to actually go on TV at home. But what I did have time to do is learn magic. And when you're at school, you'd have very little around you that you could practice magic with. But for me, I had access to things like this remote control. Let me show you what I mean. And you could go into a routine like that, right? And so that's what I'm thinking about with transitions. You're going from one moment to the other moment. So the act isn't a set series of sort of moments, but instead it all flows together. The other thing that I would say is don't think about method. When you're putting an act together, do not think about method. Instead, think about effect on the audience. What do you want? So if you want a bus pass turning into a remote control, don't sit there for an hour going, I don't really know how to turn a remote control into a bus pass, or vice versa. I'm not going to write that down. Write it down. Don't think about method. The first part of creating an act is coming up with those moments that fit the premise and the narrative that you've put together. Once you've put those moments together, then you can think of method down the line. But for now, in the initial starting point, just think about moments that would fit that premise, and then you can stitch those moments together. Once you've got those moments stitched together, at that point, then you can go, right, okay, let's think about method. And then things might change over time as you work out the method, but the method should be the last part of putting the act together. So hopefully that helps, and I think it's a great idea. So good luck. Okay, so the next question is from Smooth Plays, who says, Smooth Player, who says, "Hello, Craig. This is my first time interacting with you." Well, hello, Smooth Player. Thank you very much for interacting. A few months ago, someone asked a question if you could go over some tricks which would be for people that have disabilities like being blind or deaf. You discussed doing a trick with a blind person where you cued them by tapping their foot and squeezing their hand. You mentioned that you would look into presenting a video on this. Was wondering if you were still planning on doing so. I'm asking because I was looking to learn tricks where a magician doesn't need to speak. For example, I'm looking to do a trick for a deaf person or a person who doesn't speak English or a person at a Sweet 16 party where the music might be too loud. More walk around than stage. Thanks in advance. Yes, I do plan on putting this video together. I've got a list of about 20 videos that me and Michael are in the middle of doing, and that is one of them, and some of them take longer than others, and that one's taking a while because every time I make a video like that, there's a lot of research that goes into it. I don't just want to go and make a 20-minute video talking to camera for 20 minutes and just basically just rattling off some ideas. I want to actually give you fully formed ideas, so it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, I could also do another video on how to deal with noisy environments, because that's something that a lot of people are going to get, especially moving into Christmas. Christmas, I don't know about other countries, but over here in the UK, Christmas parties, the DJ suddenly decides that he's deaf or she's deaf and cranks the music up so ridiculously loud. So having music in a walk around environment that you can use to deal with that is vitally important. So yeah, 100% that video put together. And if there's an interest in a video on how to deal with a noisy environment, that's one that I could do probably for next week. So just let me know. Okay, we've got another question from Smooth Player who says, "Craig, I also want to thank you for changing the way you were. You made a conscious effort not to go on rants and get into back and forth. It truly has made you so appealing and a joy that I rush when I see a Craig Petty video or new project. I thought about this while watching the video with the person who said they didn't like one of your key products. The old Craig might have told the guy off. I just wanted to acknowledge your positivity and let you know that you gained a fan because of it." Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Look, I did a lot of rant videos when I first started this channel, and you're right, I made a decision not to. Now, that is not to say I'm not going to stand up for what I think is right. I think there's a difference between shouting and screaming and making noise for the sake of making noise and standing up for what you think is important. So when I made the Yigal Masika video, that for me was a very important video. It's a video I didn't really want to make, but I wanted to stand up for my friend Mark Bennett. But I did it in a way that I wasn't shouting, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't ranting, and I think that's the difference. The days of rants on this channel are over. You won't see that again, but I'm still going to be making content where I express an opinion, especially when I feel very passionately about that opinion. So yeah, thank you very much for recognizing that. It really means a lot. Okay, next question is from Chaos Magic Kidderminster, whose name is Max. Goes to the YMC with Ryan and Thea. Hello, Max. Hope you're well. And he says, "Hi, Craig. It's Max here. I told you it was Max. I was wondering, will there be a full video from Magic and Mischief at Rugeley Rose, as I thought it was fantastic. Also, what do you think of the BMC lineup so far? Many thanks, Max." Okay, so yes, but we filmed that show with 8 cameras. A bit over the top, right? We filmed the show with 8 cameras, and we've got all of the footage now, and we want to edit it together, but we want to put it together in such a way that we're using the best camera angle. So the edit is a little bit different to a normal Magic TV edit, which is to camera, boom, stitch, done, finished. This is something we've been working on for the last 2 weeks. We've got hard drive permanently stuck into Michael's computer, and we're editing it together. We're trying to make it almost like a cinematic experience. So the footage is coming. It's coming relatively soon. And we're about halfway through the act at the moment and just making it look awesome. So yes, we are actually going to be presenting that to you. It will be coming sooner rather than later. As for the BMC lineup, I think it's incredible. I talked about this on the Magic News. I think this is going to be the best Blackpool yet. 100%, hands down, absolutely the best Blackpool yet. And you know what? Despite the names that they've already announced, the best is yet to come. They've only just got started. They are literally pulling out all the stops on this one. This is going to be the best Blackpool ever, my friend. Okay, so the next question is from Hungry and Hungover, who says, "Hey Craig, hello. I started getting stuff for parlour-sized audiences and really like effects that pack small but play huge. For example, Fibre Optics by Richard Sanders, Blank Night by John Archer, Hydrostatic Pint Glass from Prop Dog, etc. What are some other effects you can recommend that don't take up a lot of room in a gig case or a bag and play for everyone watching? Thank you." You know what? I'm probably going to do a video about this because that is an amazing premise for a video that I never thought of before. Fibre optics would definitely be in there. Linking rings would definitely be in there as well because linking rings doesn't take up too much space and it can play huge. Venom Cube would definitely be in there. Cube Buster would definitely be in there. Egg Bag would absolutely 100% be in there. Chop Cup would be in there. Again, 100%. There's the book. What's the book called? Sheer Luck by Sean Farquhar would absolutely 100% definitely be in there. Cody's Comedy Book Test would definitely be in there. Tennis by Alex Ng would definitely be in there as well. There's so many great tricks that pack small and play big. There really are. There's a huge amount. Superfly by the late, great Scott Alexander is almost every show that I do. The Suit Jacket Escape would be in there. All of these routines play really, really big. The Needle Swallow, especially Needles by Scott Alexander or Blades by Scott Alexander, that would definitely be in there as well. Yeah, those are the ones that come to the top of my head immediately. There's probably a lot more that I'm not even thinking about, but those are the ones that immediately pop. Gypsy Thread, that would definitely be in there, especially if you use like something like Gypsy Balloon. That makes it even bigger. Then when you throw balloons in, you've got Haunted Balloon, you've got Amazing Balloon, the floating balloon that Ryland does in his show. All of those are just incredible. So I'd start with those, but I'm going to do a video about this. You've inspired me. I'm going to do a really cool video about the best tricks that play big on stage. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Robert Francis Magician, who says, "Hey Craig, thanks for answering my question about the Coke trick. It was Frady Frame. I was wondering, does your astonishing Coke bottle leak? Mine leaks very badly." No, never leaked. Never leaked once. I've got 3 of them. None of them have ever leaked. Also, I wanted to ask, I know you're really busy and very short-handed in the office. There have been some videos that you've said you would post and you've not done them. The videos I speak of is you're going to do a video on Hows and Whys with WoW using the back version and the blank WoW version. I don't think you've posted how to run a ticketed event. If you did, I apologize. You're an amazing guy, Craig. I'm honored to have spoken with you over the phone on video chat. You do so much, and I'd love to have you lecture for our club when you visit the US. Thanks again. Robert, you're an amazing guy. I'll chat to you anytime. I'll definitely lecture at your club. And yes, we have a list of videos that we haven't done. The ticketed one is actually done now. I didn't want to produce that until I'd actually run a ticketed event. I ran the Ruseley Rose show. We sold out 2 shows in 2 weeks. And off the back of that, I felt like I had enough knowledge to be able to give people advice. I don't believe in giving people advice on something I've never done myself. And off the back of that, I'm actually planning more ticketed events. And that video is coming soon. The WoW stuff takes a lot longer to put together. A lot of the Hows and Whys videos take so long to put together. And the problem is, Robert, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, I'm just really, really busy. Like I do 5, 6, 7 shows a week myself. I run a company that books in about 15 to 18,000 events a year. I'm teching and managing Ryland and Thea's show. I'm constantly rehearsing with them. I run the sales and marketing department of my company, which means, and we're currently in the middle of putting brand new infrastructure together into that, on top of working on other people's products, on top of working on my own products, on top of constantly producing and creating and refining products, not just for me, but for other people, then doing live performances, then doing trailers and lots of other content. It's why I'm doing this video at the crack of dawn. The reason I'm doing it so early is because that's the only way a Q&A can be done. And when you do a Hows and Whys, it has to be done in the office, and it has to be done, and it has to take a while to actually put together properly. So a lot of videos, when I say I'm going to do this, I'm giving you kind of a sneak peek of something that's going to come out in a few weeks' time. I try to put as much content on as possible. Occasionally I miss a week or I miss a day. So last Saturday there was no Talk Magic. I just didn't have time to interview somebody. And you know, occasionally that will happen. But I try to do as much as I can, but occasionally it fails. But those videos are coming soon, and the ticketed one I could imagine coming in the next week or so. Okay, so the next question is Hungervan Absford, who says, "Hi Craig, thanks for your answer. It got me thinking about something that's bothered me for years. It's about performance character. I started performing professionally about 8 years ago, only corporate though through the network of my day job. It was exclusively mentalism, as this suited the context of the professionals I performed for. As I later started performing for different audiences as well, my performance character had formed as this mysterious guy who can spook you out, kind of like what Matt does. It really suits me. My question is this: I have been doing card magic for over 20 years socially for friends and family. I can do a really good con man act, but haven't done this at gigs. Any idea how to marry the two?" Off the top of my head, I would focus on the mentalism stuff, but it sounds to me, if you're a little bit like Matt, you're not pretending you've got psychic powers. So what I would do is I would say, you know, a lot of people ask me how I learn to mess with people's minds like this. A lot of people ask me, how do you learn to be able to influence somebody to do what you want them to do? How are you able to make it feel like you're taking information out of my mind? It's a great question. I'll tell you the answer. It's not going to school where you learn how to do this. It's kind of almost like not going to school. You see, when I was younger, I really got obsessed with con games. I really got obsessed with the art of taking people's money without them realizing you're conning them. You've probably walked down the street somewhere, maybe somewhere in New York, and you've seen somebody do the 3-card trick, or find the ace, or chase the queen, or something like that. Or you might have seen somebody with a big long chain, and they're betting you money, or maybe 3 shells. There's a load of different versions of these con games. The point is, I was obsessed with them when I was younger. And those games work the same way with what I'm doing with you right now. You know, I'm not really reading your mind, but I'm saying things, I'm doing things which are influencing you to think a certain way. Well, that's what a con artist does. How does a con artist take your money? A con artist will take your money by doing exactly the same thing. They know how you think. They have to know how you think. They have to know what decision you're going to make before you make it. Because if they can't do that, they're never going to make money. They're going to lose money. You're not going to be a very good con man. You're not going to be in the game very long if you can't get in someone's head. So I learned how to do that when I was younger. I got obsessed with con games. And then when I got older, I realized I could use those skills more theatrically. And I could use those skills to actually give people the impression that I can read minds. Now, I've been very honest with you, and I can't read minds. But what I'll do is I'll give you a couple of examples of where this whole thing started out. Let me give you an example with this chain. This is an endless chain. Now, this is actually an experiment in psychology. This is not anything else, because I have to know how you think. Because if I put this chain down and I make a figure of 8, the point here is I can make either one of those sides catch, and I can make either one of the sides loose. Let me show you what I mean. Now it becomes a game of psychology. I have to get into your head and know how you think, because I have to try and lay this down knowing ahead of time what decision you're going to make. And I do that through psychology and knowing how you're going to think, but also everything I've said and everything I've done has influenced you up until this point. It's influenced you to make the decision that I want you to make. And you probably think I'm joking, but I'm not. And to prove it to you, I'm going to put money on the table. And that is how I would stitch the two. Establish yourself with the mentalism and the stuff that you can do with influence and reading people's minds and so on and so forth. Bring it back to the whole con stuff and give them a reason why you're showing them that, and what the premise behind it is. I'm showing you this because this was the starting point that got me to what you were just watching, and then finish it back by taking them into the mentalism. That's what I would do, and that's how you'd stitch it together. Okay, so Masters of Criminology says, Craig, have you thought about doing a video similar to Max Maven's Nothing? or Mark Paul's Anytime Act, during your response to 3 purchases every day, you mentioned that you left your close-up bag at home and you'll be using just a marker and deck of cards for a 2-hour show. I'd love to see videos on this concept in more detail from you. I am actually working with a production company right now. I can't tell you which one, but I'm working with a production company right now, and they're going to do that to me. I don't know when it's going to happen, because the whole point is it's going to get thrown on me. And I also don't know what environment I will be going into, because I do everything from stand-up shows to parlor shows to close-up shows to kid shows. But there is a company that I'm working with right now, and we have the concept of, at some point, they're just going to drop it on me. They're going to drop on me that they're going to take me somewhere, and they're going to give me half an hour with no props to put together a whole act that I will then have to perform and explain. And that whole premise came about as a result of Nothing by Max Maven and the Anytime Act by Mark Paul, because I'm a big fan of both of those projects, especially Nothing by Mark. Did I say Mark Mason? By Mac. Oh dear me, I'm so sorry. Nothing by Max Maven. I'm a huge fan of that trick. That DVD. It was one of my favourite DVDs from L&L. So yeah, that is something that's coming. I'm not doing it on the channel. I'm doing it for a production company. It will be given out as free content. It's not content that you're going to have to pay in order to get, but it's going out through a production company. So yeah, look out for it. We're planning on doing it at some point this year. Okay, so Sean Coleman says, "Hi Craig, hope you're having a cracking week so far ahead of reading this." Yes, I am, thank you. I wanted to let you know that I have a Savant deck, and I'm using it to do a trick very similar to the one on the Infinity deck, where I have a random spectator pick whether we will randomly select 2, 4, 6, or 8 cards with a shuffle between each pair selected. Once the total spots on all cards are counted and the total is found, attention is then turned to another deck of cards. I openly placed and held in a box by a spectator for the beginning of the course. Once opened, we counted down to that total card. Once flipped over, it will reveal one of 4 Marvel movies, which, whilst they are doing this, I will already have selected the correct focus on my phone to show my wallpaper had been that film for the day, and looking at all the other 51 cards will show every movie as different. Wow, that sounds great. I was wondering if you thought this was a good effect with the Savant deck. Yes. And if you can think of a name for it as the trick, as a trick, so correct credit for the effect could also be given, if that makes sense. As I say before, I'm new back to it, but crediting people seems very important in the community. I understand why, so would make sure I'm doing the same. Yeah, crediting is really important. Send me a message and I can help you with any crediting that you want. That's absolutely not a problem. It involves research, though, so you want to... and also, don't just use me. Use everybody. Go on the Conjuring Archive. But yeah, you're doing the right thing. Also, maybe I can ask where on earth I can find myself a genuine quiver. They seem to be sold out everywhere. I'm happy to buy second-hand, but I can't find any luck there. I know you said you own about 5. Can I buy one of yours? I am, of course, joking, but you don't have any suggestions to get my hands on one, please? Illusionist normally sell quivers. They normally Illusionist, they are one of the only people that carry it. So let me just look. Yeah, they've got them here in stock. How is it to learn? Yeah, it's in stock. Here we go. So there you go. Illusionist. They've got both the Quiver and the Quiver Plus. There you go. Illusionist Quiver Plus. And if we scroll up, you can see... There it is. Add to cart. Don't know if you can see that. There you go, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. So it's in stock right now. So yeah, that's where I would go. I would go to Illusionist. They ship worldwide, but yeah, I don't know if they have the exclusive on it, but they definitely are one of the companies that it's not distributed through Murphy's, I don't believe. So only certain companies have it, and they're one of them that definitely do. So Illusionist is the place to go. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Devereux, who says, "Hi Craig, how are you?" I'm very well, thank you, Stephen. All of your tricks you're buying, are you ever selling them after a while, or do you keep them in the warehouse and use them whenever? Thanks, Stephen Rue, South Africa. Basically, no, we tend to keep stuff. We don't really sell anything. I keep thinking I should, because we've got boxes and boxes and boxes of tricks that are just sitting there. So one day I'll have a massive clear out. But no, the warehouse is just full of magic. It's just full of magic. My house is full of magic. there's magic everywhere. My wife hates it. But no, we don't typically sell everything. But it's something that maybe at some point in the future we'll consider. Okay, so the final question is from Jason Lives, who says, "Hi Craig, thanks for the amazing content. You're more than welcome, Jason. Thank you very much for commenting. My question for you is, have you seen the new video by Yigal on penguin magic? Can we have your thoughts?" Yes, I have. And yes, you can. I might do a video on this. Look, here's the thing. I have got to know the people at Penguin Magic very, very well. Because I'm there filming quite a lot for them, and I've done a lot of projects for them, and I've helped them with a lot of stuff. So I know the people who run Penguin Magic very well. I also know a lot of the people that work at Penguin Magic. And one of the people who was on Yigal's video talking negatively about Penguin Magic, not only have I met him and worked with him several times, and he did a lot of the videography for Chop the first time I was over there, but I've actually even interviewed him on Magic TV, so I'm aware of a lot of the players in this 20-minute video that Yigal made. And I've had emails from people wanting my opinion on this and wanting to know what I think, because it's very, quote-unquote, damning to Penguin Magic. I'm going to give my opinion at some point soon. What I will say is the video was full of misinformation and dressed as facts. And there's a lot of stuff in there that didn't quite make sense to me. And also didn't make sense as to why this video was even being made in the first place. I mean, there's a lot of... there was the moment in the video where he talks about how he had a friend go on and leave a review to see whether it would be posted. And then made a big point of it wasn't posted, and therefore Penguin are holding back reviews. First of all, isn't that him basically admitting to leaving fake reviews for a competitor's product? Isn't that basically effectively what he's actually admitting to there? But beyond all of that, if that was the case, why are there so many negative reviews for ties on Penguin Magic? You know, he said that they're withholding reviews. Go and look at the product. There's a load of reviews on there that actually specifically talk about other competing products having better quality than ties. Then why would all of a sudden this particular review be withheld, but all the other reviews haven't? Because I like I say, I know the guys at Penguin Magic very well, and they're very proud of the fact that their reviews are fully, completely, and totally accurate representations of what their customers think. Case in point, the Atomic deck. Like, I'm the 3-time Penguin Magic Creator of the Year. I've been over at Penguin Magic multiple times. I've gone to dinner. Last year, I spent Thanksgiving with the team at Penguin Magic, hanging out with all of them. I know them all really well. And you look at the Atomic deck, and there's a ton of negative reviews on there. If anybody, if any artist, if any creator had any sort of clout or sway or ability to have Penguin take reviews down that are negative, don't you think it would be me? And they haven't done that for me, and I've not asked them to, because I know how ethical they are and how important the review system is. So there's just one example of something on that video that doesn't exactly hold up and doesn't exactly make sense. There's an admission there of leaving a fake review, and then there's a accusation of somebody hiding reviews, when in reality you look at the product and you see, well, hang on a minute, there's already a load of fake reviews on there. There's already a load of negative reviews on there. So why would that even be a case? But that's one of a small amount of things. Like, he was saying that Penguin ripped off a product of his, and he was showing this particular thing that they ripped off. That was a Blue Crown product. That wasn't a Penguin product. That was a Blue Crown product presented by Magic Ballet. It wasn't a Penguin product. It was a Blue Crown product. You have to understand that Penguin is a magic shop that literally stocks everything. It literally stocks everything. Everything. The trick that he's talking about isn't even a Penguin product. It's a Blue Crown product. It's not even produced by them. It would have been listed on other magic shops as well. I can systematically pull this apart piece by piece. I could talk to you about the interviews with past employees and talk to you about the real reason why they're on there negatively speaking about Penguin. I could tell you about exactly what happened as to why they're no longer there. I'm not going to get into that. I could talk to you about everything that was presented in that video. I just don't understand why the video was made, to be perfectly honest. It seems that it comes across, to be honest, as well, at best, a hit piece. And, you know, I don't understand why. He made a video on me. I was going to make a reply. I chose not to. And one of the reasons I chose not to make a reply is because, hey, you know, I had my say. I stood up for a friend. I stood up for Mark Bennett. I stood up for Airflight. I shone a spotlight and with evidence on what I felt was wrong, and I still believe that's wrong. He then made a video, The Scandals of Craig Petty, and he put that video on there, and, you know, great. He put that video on there. I was going to make a reply. I chose not to. One of the reasons I chose not to is because I didn't want to get dragged into this anymore. But now, seeing this, I mean, ask yourself a question. Let's just leave it here. As you've asked the question, ask yourself a question. Go and look on his YouTube channel. Go and look at the first video that he made of me. 11,000 views, hundreds of comments, right? A lot of people were interested in that video. It was a reply to my video. Reply to my video, right? 11,000 views, lots of comments, lots of likes. Amazing. Lots of people supporting him. Good stuff. Then about a month later, he put another video up, an 11-second video. It was a trailer. It was like a trailer pointing people to the first video, right? Go and look at the interaction on that video. No likes, no comments, no nothing, right? But it's got 80,000 views. To put that into context, the video that blew up, replying to my video, got 10,000 views. The video has gone on Penguin Magic. It's, I think, about 3.5, maybe 4,000 views. The video that he made, the 11-second video, he's only got 3 videos in his channel. The 11-second video, 80,000 views. How does a video that has no interaction, no likes, and no comments get about 10 times more than the video he made about me, telling me that I was scandalous? Because he paid for people to watch the video. He paid to have it promoted. And that tells you, or at least in my opinion, it tells you everything that you need to know. Maybe I'll revisit this. Maybe I'll take the video that I was going to post and post it in the first place and expand it about Penguin Magic as well. All I can say is my opinion. You ask my opinion on what I thought about that video. It's laughable. So there you go, guys. That's another video in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. Now, don't forget, if you've got a question, ask it down below. I'll get back to it, and I'll put it on next week's Q&A. You want to see more videos like this? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I'm going to be back again tonight with a review show special. We're going to be looking at Chop Tube by TCC and Dave Loosely. That's right, Dave's back with a brand new trick, and it's a stonker. You're going to see a full performance of that. I think we're one of the first people to review that trick. Outside of that, don't forget to join the Netrix. Now, the Netrix is my online streaming platform for magicians. You want to get access to me and everything that I do, then go to the Netrix. I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.